Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I haven't really had a chance to talk a lot more about Bitcoin here for quite some time. I'm trying to talk about Bitcoin, try to talk about what I think is going to happen moving forward based on everything that I'm seeing. Also try and talk about maybe some of the major altcoins as well. Talk about the whole overall crypto market. And here we go, Bitcoin. What's going on here? A lot of people are suspecting that we would have to go back to the 90,000 range. The reason why is because we had a breakout of the 20-week moving average with Bollinger Band expanding over here on the weekly, and currently the 20-week moving average is around 92,500, somewhere around there. So there is a theory in which there could be a back test of that area before going up, although we didn't really back test over here, so I don't know why it has to happen. Same thing once we broke through over here, we didn't really back test it until months later, so I don't necessarily think we have to go and back test it, but that's one theory anyway. The other theory is that we have finally broken above the Ichimoku weekly Tenkan Kijun, which are these blue and red lines over here. Sometimes where we break through, we do back test it here. We did kind of back test it here a little bit, didn't we? Before going up further here, once we broke through, we didn't really back test until the Tenkan Kijun really start to rise. But where's the Tenkan Kijun right now? The Tenkan Kijun is around 90,000 to 92,000, somewhere around there. So the theory is maybe this is the cup. Maybe we're going to have a little bit of a hand over here before going up higher. But again, history basically says that, once you kind of break above, it doesn't really have to backtest until way later. So we don't necessarily have to go back to the 90,000 range. What I really think is happening in this weekly Gann square here that I've drawn, I've been really following this ever since like many months ago, like since 2024, somewhere around here. And this Gann square has served me extremely well here on the weekly, where it really served as great market symmetry. You can see how this arc over here was great resistance. Once you broke through, went to the next arc, spent about 3 months there, and then it broke through, went to the next arc, spent about 6 months, 7 months there, and then once we broke through, we end up getting rejected right here at the arc above, right? So this provide absolutely beautiful market symmetry. Whenever we break above here, you can see that it kind of went back and back tested the arc here almost perfectly, right? Here, so far, what are we doing right now? We did break through, and I think we're going for a little bit of back test here on the arc here today. That gives me confidence that we may not have to go down to the 92 to 90,000 range, like some folks might suspect, right? If it breaks down, then yeah, it could go down to maybe 96, 95,000, somewhere around the zone down here, which will be a retracement of this whole entire candle here, which would suck. But do I think that absolutely has to happen? No, I don't, because on the previous look up, it has shown us great behavior once you're breaking through an arc here pretty convincingly, close above that, which we did last week. You can go back test before going up higher, or you may not even have to. But so far, this is still looking like it might just be a little bit of back test. Granted, I think it could go down further, but it doesn't have to, right? I also want to show you a couple other things here too, which includes the daily chart here. Now, in addition to having a weekly Gann here that has served extremely well for me for quite some time, this daily Gann here that was drawn all the way from the bottom of August 5th here all the way up to here has shown me really great market symmetry, where all these arcs over here have shown extremely well support and resistance levels. And this 45-degree angle here has also been served as very strong resistance level here for many months now, right? We were finally able to, a few days ago, break through that, and not only did we end up breaking through the angle, we also broke through a horizontal zone over here around 101K, and we basically just came back today, and we are back testing that area right now. So far as holding. Does it have to go down a lot further and back test the arc? Not necessarily. Does it have to hold here and just keep on going up there? Not necessarily. It could potentially come back and touch the angle, because we did spend a very long time here at the angle as resistance. So it's not out of the imagination if it decides that it wants to plummet all the way down, especially CPI coming later this week to 99,000, somewhere around there, maybe even wick below that. All of these things are a possibility. But regardless, I want to show you this is a higher high compared to all these highs over here. It has clearly changed its trajectory. It clearly wants to go higher. Whenever it gets down, even if it goes down all the way to like 95, 94,000, which I don't think it necessarily has to. If it goes down 95, 94,000, that's still going to be a higher high. There's going to be a higher low, and the trajectory is still going to be up. moving forward. So with this beautiful market symmetry, I'm not surprised at all if this horizontal gain level here ends up holding. I'm just not surprised at all. If it comes back down and tests the angle, it would also just be at the same horizontal zone of a breakout over here that we had gotten some pretty important rejection over here around 98, 99,000, and that would not be the end of the world. So I actually think this trend change here is pretty significant, and I think that Bitcoin wants to go higher over time. It's just making these higher highs and higher lows, and I think eventually I might have to draw a new daily Gantt square because this one might be irrelevant soon. I do want to say that the 45-degree angle here is very, very important with multiple touches, so it would not surprise me at all if it decides to go back to the 45-degree angle, but so far it's looking like it's holding at a pretty strong support. On a higher time frame, I just cannot imagine. I just cannot imagine what the bears have been saying that Bitcoin has topped, right? A lot of people are saying, hey, this could be a double or triple top, whatever. I mean, I don't know what that means. Like a lot of people saying this is like a triple top over here, but it's always a double or triple top before it goes up higher, right? What do we have here so far in the weekly? This is a linear this is a linear Fibonacci sequence here. If you're basically drawing 1 here from the previous cycle high and 0 here being the previous the cycle low over here, we have finally broken back above the 1.618 here, and so far this week on a Monday we are back testing that area at 1.618 Fib level, and so far we're holding here. Does it mean that we're going to end up holding for the rest of the week? Not necessarily, right? Here we had a false breakout, broke down, and we really tried to break over 1.618 here, was not able to, and eventually we ended up going down here, right? Could we end up breaking back down and form another bit of a cup and handle back to the 90, 92, 94,000 range, whatever people are calling for? Possible, but that would still be relatively bullish, right? Now, if I do a log fib here, you can also see that in addition to a linear fib being 1.618, you can also see the log fib here is 1.272, and 1.272 is trying to be resistance here. It's been resistance here for a very long time, and it's also still trying to be resistance here, right? If you're looking at the weekly, it looks like we had a little bit of weekly broken above of that, and so far the week is still early. You know, we kind of breaking down below. Well, you look at the monthly, we still have a hard time breaking above the 1.272, right? Then you also look at the monthly, we are trying to break above the 1.618. So regardless, this is a very, very important zone here, and we're trying to break above. This is a very important resistance level here. Once we break above, I think we can get to some of the higher levels here in a hurry. I think once we break above that area on my weekly chart over here on the Gantt chart, once we're able to flip that 102, 103K level from resistance here to support, we could go all the way up here to the next Gantt arc level, not Gantt arc, Gantt level over here, around 117, 600, somewhere around there. That's going to be my next level where I expect having some resistance there, right? Beyond that, I mean, I can look at my my daily Gantt chart here. Beyond that, if with this horizontal zone over here ends up holding, we're going back maybe, again, the other chart saying 117,600. Here we might end up going 121, right? And if you're also looking at different fib level here, the 2 level on basically saying just double up from where the cycle top is going to be at, it's going to be at 122, right? If you're looking at a log fib here, 128 is going to be another level. I think once we're able to break about this zone resistance here, it's going to get up there to potentially 117 and the 120s here in a hurry. I don't necessarily think it's going to break out. I think that it still probably needs to have a little bit of more, workout here. You can still come back and touch the 45-degree angle. You can still go back and back test a lot of things. But so far, it's forming higher highs and higher lows. I'm not going to bet against Bitcoin, right? That's the whole story. Zooming out here on the monthly chart, I think it's very important to look at the greater picture here on the monthly, because if you're looking at the Ichimoku here on the monthly, and you look in the blue line over here, in a bull market, price rides up on the blue line on the way up and can go pretty parabolic, right? On a bull market, price rides up on the blue line on the way up can be pretty parabolic. On a bull market, price rides up on a blue line over here, the Tenkan here, and it can be quite parabolic. We just bounced off it again, right? Just like the time before and the time before that. There's no reason for me to think that the cycle is over because we're still riding the Tenkan on the way up, right? The other thing is you look at bull in Japan, you can see that bull in Japan is contracting, right? Does it mean that the cycle is over? Not necessarily, because what happened the time before that when it starts to contract, that looks just like that. Well, the cycle is over here, right? But the time before that, you also had a very, very similar contraction because price simply just kind of gone sideways here for about a whole year, kind of like we did over here. Right? Price went sideways over here for a whole year, but building higher highs and higher lows, it looks like it wants to go up higher. It looks like it wants to go up higher. We're probably a couple candles away from having bullish band expansion. And once the bullish band starts to expand, in which I anticipate to, based on current price action, once the bullish band ends up expanding, I think Bitcoin's going to go up a lot higher, and it's going to be pretty surprising to a lot of folks that are kind of looking at that, and they're going to scratch their head and saying, what the heck is going on? I also want to show the lazy bear wave trend oscillator. It's also forming higher highs and higher lows, and it's about to have a bullish cross, right? It's about to have a bullish cross. On the weekly, it's had a bullish cross for a very long time, which is why we're getting strength over here. I think this strength is going to end up continuing. But on the monthly here, we're about to have a bullish cross, right? So to me, I don't think there's anything really particularly bearish about Bitcoin. I just think that it's forming higher highs and higher lows and is doing exactly what it needs to do. If you're looking at the Gann square here that I have for Bitcoin, that dates all the way back down to 2012, you can see how these arcs over here mean something, right? Cycle top, cycle top, cycle top, right? Broke through, back test, went to the next arc. Broke through, back test for a whole year almost, went to the next arc, right? We broke through, back test, right? Could we go to the next arc? It's possible. We're going to have some resistance up here around 20,000. Sorry, 200,000. But once we break through that, and I do not know when that's going to be potentially a pretty strong resistance level up here because it's again horizontal line, kind of like it was over here. We might end up getting stuck here for a long time. But I think the next move is going to be up here to the Gann arc eventually, right? That's going to be where I think it's going to end up taking off at. I think this sideways over here consolidation is very similar to the sideways consolidation over here. Very similar to the sideways consolidation over here before the next parabolic move on the way up. But we could get interrupted here by 200,000. That's kind of what I'm seeing here on the overall Bitcoin chart, right? I do not know how far this Bitcoin cycle would go. Nobody has the answer to that. This is a log fib, anywhere from 2.270 to 2.618 log fib. Can be anywhere from 460,000 to 774,000. Nobody knows when that's going to hit, right? If it hits the arc a little bit lower here, it could hit some of the lower levels, right? If it hits the arc really quick, it could hit some of the higher levels. Nobody knows how high it's going to go. Nobody even knows whether or not this arc is going to be hit anywhere in 2025, 2026. I'm just based on past experience. I'm just kind of telling you what I'm seeing here. But regardless, I think we are in the process of most likely going higher. Ethereum. I have had this chart here for quite some time. Once it broke through this diagonal line over here, because there's a lot of pressure that's being built up, once it broke through underneath, it grabbed liquidity. And next thing you know, it just ended up going a lot higher. Same thing happened during COVID, broke down underneath of that, made a lot of people unhappy. Next thing you know, that was the spring that is needed to go a lot higher, right? So far, what do we have here? I think we have our tariff spring here in March 2024. March 2025. A lot of people are unhappy, including myself, because Ethereum has done really nothing. You can also see that the cycle has been lasting longer and longer for Ethereum too, right? It's one of those things that's just kind of really surprising to me in terms of how long the cycle has lasted. If you look at the M2 Global Liquidity Index, I can also draw some of the rectangles here. If you look at a global M2 Liquidity Index fund here, you can see whenever it breaks above a resistance zone over here in backtest, that's when things went berserk, go a lot higher, right? Whenever things broke above a horizontal resistance zone over here, right? You can see it, and then you did a backtest, that's whenever things went berserk and went a lot higher, right? What do we have here so far? Well, we just had a breakthrough of this really prolonged horizontal resistance zone here, global liquidity, and we just had a backtest, right? Looks like global liquidity wants to go up higher over time. I think that's where we're at the juncture at right now in terms of global liquidity rising, and I think this is going to bode pretty well for Ethereum. How high does Ethereum go this cycle? I don't even want to speculate here at this point. Let's just hope this is not a bearish backtest of a previous support zone. Let's hope we break through it like we did before and the time before that. Let's hope we break through first, right? Until we break through, I'm not going to make any gesture in saying that Ethereum is going to go to 30,000 to 50,000. I'm not going to say that from the top here to the bottom over here with the cycles, that's going to end up going to the 2.272 or even 2.618 log fibs. I'm not going to say that because I do not want to make any assumptions right now, right? I want to see whether or not we can even break through resistance. Last cycle was kind of disappointing because it went to the 1.414 and that was it, right? If this cycle end up going to the 1.414, you're going to get maybe a 5-digit Ethereum, and that's pretty much it, right? 10,000, that's pretty much it. Although I don't know whether or not that's going to be the case because this time we've consolidated sideways here for a lot longer. The longer the base, maybe the higher it goes. I just think that the cycle is longer. I think the base is longer. I think Ethereum probably still has a lot of juice left underneath of it. And it's probably going to go up higher over time. Now, a couple other things to look at when it comes to Ethereum. We are also trying to break through the 0.618 fib level over here, right? We are trying to break through the 0.618 that's been serving as resistance here. I also don't want this to be a bearish backtest. I want it to push through. We'll see whether or not Ethereum has the ability to do that, right? On top of that, you also look at a weekly Ichimoku cloud. You can see how it's also trying to reclaim the Tenkan here, the blue line, but it's having a hard time breaking above the bottom of the cloud over here. We underneath a lot of resistance. Even if you look at the monthly, sorry, that was a 2-week. If you look at the weekly Ichimoku, we still have some room to go. But if you look at the monthly, we're also at the top of the cloud here, which is currently service resistance. A lot of resistance to be broken above for Ethereum. With that said, this is a very, very bullish Morningstar look to it. This Morningstar look basically says that Ethereum is probably going to push through and go a lot higher just because of the morphology of this look. This Morningstar over here, very similar to this Morningstar over here, although this has a much bigger wick here, showing me that there's a lot of demand down here that's been tested. A lot of liquidity zone has been already grabbed, and I think Ethereum most likely is getting ready to get up a lot higher, but it's underneath a lot of resistance. I'm just going to be a little bit more patient here. There's such a thing as Ethereum dominance, which is ridiculous, right? When has Ethereum dominated? Well, there actually was a time when Ethereum was greater than 20% of the entire cryptocurrency market cap, and guess what? It plummeted nonstop all the way down to back to 7%. That was the previous low around 2019 here as well. So I think we've finally hit a bottoming zone. I think Ethereum is having a bullish engulfing candle. I think Ethereum is trying to play catch up. That's what it's trying to do. Without talking too much about all the other charts here, I just want to show you a couple of things. XRP, I think, is going to $8. I think it's holding this horizontal gain zone over here extremely well. I think that $8 is also a pretty important zone here too, in terms of fib level around the 1.272. Which is a pretty important fib level here. How it reacts at that particular circle once it gets there, I don't know, but currently it looks like it really wants to get up there. Doge, what do I think? So currently it's having a hard time getting above the 0.618 level over here, but it's forming higher highs and higher lows. And if you're also looking at the 20-month moving average, is serving as great support here. I was very happy to be able to top up a little bit more here at the 20-month moving average, but you're also hitting a lot of resistance, such as the monthly Ichimoku cloud, right? If you're looking at the 2-week Ichimoku cloud, you're also hitting some pretty strong resistance up here too at the Tenkan Kitchen. If you're looking at the weekly, you also have the weekly Ichimoku cloud here above as well. All of these are going to be resistance in addition to the 0.618 log fit level over here. On top of all that, we're also in the process of trying to reclaim the 20-week moving average, which we're having a little bit of a hard time doing. We have a little bit of trees on top here, which is not what I want to see, but it could potentially just end up coming back down, find a little bit of a higher low before going up higher. I like the way that Doge is looking right now. It's just unfortunate that it's at resistance, and I think probably would take some time for it to break above. But am I bearish on this? Heck no, I'm not bearish on this. You just had a bullish crossover here on the wave trend oscillator. You just had a downtrend flipping into an uptrend, right? I think the momentum is there for you to push up higher, but it might take a little bit of a zigzag road on the way up because we have broken down a lot of resistance and we're trying to push back through a lot of resistance to get back above. Now, look at how Doge is, right? Underneath the 20-week moving average, let's look at the other altcoins that are meme, right? They're doggy meme. Shiba got above the 20-week, right? This is Bonk, got above the 20-week. Pepe, not a doggy coin, a froggy coin, got above the 20-week, right? A lot of things are kind of flipping more bullish here when it comes to meme coin. And I think meme coin cycle could be coming soon because liquidity is up, because we might have rotation from Bitcoin to altcoins coming soon because Ethereum has hit rock bottom. And I think we might need to play catch up here with a lot of these altcoins that I'm seeing here. Without going into too much, I am bullish here on AVAX, Avalanche. The reason why is because I do have a Gann chart here, and I think even AVAX is at a resistance level, right? It's at a resistance Gann horizontal in the 0.382. But if you take away from the Fibonacci, if you just purely look at this, it just bounced out of a very, very confluent support zone, right? I think AVAX is probably going to end up going higher. It's probably going to end up breaking horizontal level over here. Which path is it going to take? Is it going to do that? Is it going to do that? Nobody knows, but I anticipate to hit the arc back up here above, challenge the arc here for a third time, and anticipate us to break through it this time, right? I can talk about Solana. Solana is trying to break about the 0.886 log fib here. Solana has gone through a weekly Ichimoku cloud backtest. It's also hitting a lot of resistance level, both in 0.86 as well as the Ichimoku cloud here, which is also going to be resistance here soon. But guess what? Solana is a little bit more bullish than Doge, right? Because it is back above the 20-week moving average, right? Look at Chainlink. Chainlink's having a little bit of a hard time breaking above the 20-week moving average. It's also got a horizontal, not horizontal, it's also got a Gann arc level over here. That has served as some pretty decent market symmetry here for me for a very long time. I think I did this, 1440, this is for a weekly. I think that it is at resistance, but I think that there's a good chance that we could break through and probably at some point hit the arc up here above, because it's shown significantly great market symmetry. It spent so much time over here at the arc. It wants to push through this arc, right? 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touches. I think it wants to push through, and eventually I think we're going to end up grabbing up to the triple digit chain link here. ADA also have a really, really beautiful market symmetry here. I think that it has touched the 45-degree angle here enough, push through an arc here, get stuck in here in the arc here for long enough. I think it's probably wanting to push through here. Horizontal line over here is going to be next around 1.6. After that, it's going to hit this arc here. When does it hit? I don't know. But I'm pretty bullish when it comes to these selected altcoins here. I could keep going. I'm going to talk about maybe 2 more here that people are interested in. One is Randar. Randar, I have a Gann here, although the Gann here is not that great looking in terms of market symmetry. So I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to take off, look at the Ichimoku here, reclaiming a tank, and looks like it wants to grab it up here to the cloud, right? Look at the monthly, it's basically just been backtested bottom of the cloud over here, and it's holding. It looks like it wants to get back to the $7 zone. Once it picks it up, it can go up a lot higher, right? 20-month moving average could potentially be resistance here, but I like this upsloping, so it's probably not going to be that strong resistance here. Randor actually looks pretty decent because it has a very, very nice tweezer bottom here, backtest a horizontal zone here. I think it's going to end up going higher once it pushes through the diagonal trend line over here. I think it's going to go up higher, right? Again, once it pushes through around like $7.4 range over here, it's going to go up higher. It's found a pretty decent bottom over here. Finally, Fetch AI, one that a lot of people are very interested in. As far as I'm concerned, I think Fetch AI, this is done on a weekly here. I think Fetch AI, my Gann here, has shown some pretty decent market symmetry. I thought that once it pushes through the resistance, which we did here at the horizontal Gann level, it's probably going to gravitate up here to the arc. Where is it going to hit? Here, I don't know. But I think it found a 45-degree support zone over here. I think it wants to push through the arc. It's already tried once, twice. We're going to try it a third time. I think this time it's going to push through. Eventually, I think it's going to hit the arc up here. Where it's going to hit, I don't know. But I think it's probably going to go to the teens here, maybe some point in 2026. That's my best assumption here based on the overall market. Why do I feel bullish on altcoins overall? Even though things like what I was just showing you with Fetch AI, for the most part, is still forming like, lower highs and lower lows. Why do I think that? Because if you look at the others chart, which is the altcoin index, if you will, this is the cryptocurrency total market cap, excluding the top 10 coins. And if you can see that, you basically what you're looking at here is a pretty bullish setup of higher highs and higher lows. If you're looking at the whole setup here, this is basically trying to break back into the golden pocket here between 0.61 and 0.786. And it looking like it's been forming higher highs and higher lows, and it's been looking like it wants to break through, right? If you look at the Ichimoku, it's got above the weekly Ichimoku here. Look at the monthly Ichimoku, it's above the monthly Ichimoku cloud. This is a very, very healthy look for the others chart. It also reclaimed a rising 21 moving average, and it also looks like Bitcoin, where you have a very much of a contracted Bollinger Band over here, which to me, I think it might follow Bitcoin now at this time. And I think this consolidation sideways over here has been overdone. And I think Bitcoin, because of this higher high and higher low type look, is due for a bounce. if this is wave 1, which I think it is, honestly, it's hard for me to say, right? You can say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And this is the wave 1 over here. In the greater degree, this is wave 2. Or you can say that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is a flat, a flat wave 2. Regardless of what you call it, wave 3 is coming, and wave 3 is probably going to be the strongest and the most impulsive one of all. The Bollinger Band squeeze here is telling me that a big move is going to come. And if the move is to the upside, man, I can't imagine. I'm going to shut up because I don't want to just spill all kinds of like crap to you. I don't want to sound like a stupid cat talking bullish for no reason. I'm just going to let the charts talk. I'm going to let the price action talk. And I'm going to let whatever Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins do their thing. They could prove me right. They could prove me wrong. But darn it, I'm going to share my thoughts with you. All right, take care, guys. Bye.